Welcome back to the Fourfold Path. I'm Jordan, and when last we left our intrepid adventurer Tabitha, she had been abducted from the hotel where she was being watched by police officers. Kind of a rough night. Let's see what happens next. So the next expected scene is Tabitha being shoved into some sort of waiting vehicle and a car chase. So let's see how that goes. I think the current chaos score is 7. Great. So we must roll over a 7 to get the expected scene. I don't need to roll 2 die. I need to roll 1. We rolled 8. We get the expected scene. So they have our lovely Tabitha in their grasps, and they're dragging her out to the car. And we are in the middle of kind of a situation, right? The guys that are abducting Tabitha, we know they're pretty strong because they managed to disable some police officers in the stairwell. So what we're going to have to do is figure out what that's going to look like. They're going to get into the car, obviously, and start going. And the police officers that ran upstairs are going to get their bearings and call for backup. And the police officers downstairs, he's relatively incapacitated, but he would probably run back to the car to call for backup as well. So let's say the weird thing is we're very rapidly entering into a space where Tabitha doesn't have a lot of agency. So let's figure out what that looks like. So they're going out to the car, and the police officers upstairs have figured out, and they're going to start... No, there's only one. He's going to secure... he's going to secure Janus. So the guy upstairs is just going to secure Janus. The guy downstairs, and they're both going to call for backup. Does the guy downstairs... Is he in his car quickly enough that he gets to observe the abductors getting Tabitha? I'm going to say that that's very likely on a chaos factor of 7. That is a, what does that look like? On a chaos factor of 7, that looks like a 90 or less. So does he see the vehicle? Get a good look at it. 17. So that's an extreme yes. So not only does he get the vehicle, he gets the plates. Just memorizes the plates, watches them roll right past, and catches it on dash cam. So he probably caught escape vehicle. So we know that. That's going to be useful later, I think. And the car pulls out of the parking lot, and the police officer pulls out behind them, giving chase. And so now it's going to be sort of a chase thing. So the bad guys are going to need to... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what I want. Evade cops. The cops have it easier. Pit. And the and then there's there's backup on scene. Well, what does backup mean? They'll just be assets. So we'll say backup. So this is a small area. They don't have a helicopter. So it'll just be extra cars. And that's going to tick on its own. So it's a van. It's a conversion van. They've rented like a U-Haul, effectively. And they got Tabitha in the back and two of them up front. And so they pull out. And how are we going to do that? Because Tabitha doesn't have a lot of agency. She's being restrained by a guy in the back. And we know that guy in the back is level 3. So Tabitha will try to break free, struggle. And an 11, Nat, beats the level 3 that the guy is. So Tabitha manages to break free and is loose in the back of this van that has no restraints for her while the vehicle is rolling down the highway. What are Tabitha's stats currently? She's tuckered out, isn't she? Yeah, she's real tired. She's real tired, but she's got that. And does she have any ciphers? No. So so she's free. On the same initiative pass, we'll say that it's a difficulty 3 to start evading the cops. It's a difficulty 3 to gain on them, and backup ticks every time. So they move on the evasion track. And the officer moves on, getting closer to Pitt. And the backup, we said, just naturally ticks forward. Okay, so there's this guy and Tabitha in the back, sort of struggling, but Tabitha is free. They're moving at a high speed. They're moving at a really high speed, but they're gonna have to corner eventually. Is she gonna? Ooh. Yeah, Tabitha's going to try to open the back door. So, this is a speed test if she wanted to spend on it. And I'm going to say that it's difficulty 1 to open the back door out, because they open out. The moment she undoes the latch, it's gone. And she just broke free from this guy who's going to try to restrain her, but she's moving away from him. So that's not really going to affect it. She just needs to... we'll do it separately. So does she get to the door to open it? Does she open the door? Yes! The back door flies open on the van as it's careening down the highway. Because she manages to get it unlatched. And it'll bang shut. Eventually. But it's open right now. And she sees the cop car chasing her, and so does the guy in the back of the van with her, who tries to grab her. So she's going to try to evade the grab. It's a difficulty 3, just like everything else. She's not going to spend anything on it. She is captured again, so she is now being restrained by this guy in the back. The guy driving is attempting to evade the police officer. He's going to drive straight down the straightaway, so it's a little more challenging. He does not make ground. The officer is going to try to do a pit. He does not make ground. And backup continues to get closer. All right. So Tabitha's struggling in the back still. and the van is careening down the highway. She's going to use it's a might test to try and get free. I'm going to have her use effort to try and get free here. So she'll spend 1. So it goes from a difficulty 3 to a difficulty 2 task. She must roll at least a 6. She rolls she rolls a 9. So she gets free again. And the other guy is not on her anymore. And now the drivers try to evade. They do manage to move up the evasion track. The pit maneuver happens, or the guy tries to move into position to pit. He gets a 16. He is getting into position to disable the car, and the door is banging around as they careen down the highway, and backup arrives on the scene. So now there are cop cars that come. One comes in from the side, and one is running down the highway from the other side. So this is now hindered by. Do we want to say 1 or 2? I'm going to say it's a 2 hindrance. No, let's say it's 1 hindrance. Let's say it's a +1 to do the evasion roll. So Tabitha's free, and the door is swinging. There's a cop car coming down towards her. She is... they're moving at high speed. She doesn't want to really jump out. She's just trying to get into a position to... At the speed that she's going, if they're in an accident, she's likely to die, and she's clever. She's going to know that. So she's going to know that her option is really out. Does she have anything on herself? No. Is there anything in the back of the truck? Any asset that she could use? There's very likely to be rope and restraints and whatnot for her. Oh, I know what she's gonna do. She's gonna try to maintain a stance near the exit of the van and like goad the guy in there with her into charging at her, trying to catch her, like trying to lunge for her, then move out of the way and try to get him to fall out of the back. So we'll say that is a difficulty. That's a difficulty 6 task. And she'll use her cipher. I think she can use her cipher for this. Yeah. So this is a task of difficulty 6. She'll use confidence to ease it down to 4. And then, is this a dexterity task? Is this a speed task? Or a might task? I think it's a might task because she's trying to redirect him. So she must roll a 9 or more. And if she does, the guy goes out the back. And it's a 10. So the guy lunges at her, and she moves slightly and then grabs him and tosses. And he goes out the back, and into the road. And that peels off one of the 2 backup cars, but one of them already arrived. So they stand there to like capture that guy and maybe try to stabilize him. Now let's see the evasion. Now they must roll 12 or more now to move up on their track. And they roll a 4, so they make no motion. Does the other officer get into a position to pit? Uh, one, and in fact, no, no, and they get a complication. So what's the complication gonna be? I think in this case, the complication is that they try to get into position and lose a little ground, and the evasion track moves up. All right, so we're in this weird position. Now the fleeing car is going to come up against the car that was coming from the other direction quickly. Maybe they've turned across the highway to make things more complicated. And Tabitha is uncontested in the back now. Okay, so Tabitha's going to look for a box cutter and try to hold the guy in the front of the moving van hostage with it. So let's do an intellect task. Let's say it's a difficulty 3 to identify something like that, and she'll spend to bring it down to a difficulty 2. Must roll 6 or more. She does not find anything this round. The guys continue to try and evade. They do not. The cop car tries to move into position for a pit maneuver and does not succeed. So we proceed to the next round. Tabitha's going to look again spending. This time she finds it. So she's got a knife. And do we let her go and get up to that? No, she only has the knife. The guy tries to evade. He does not. The cop tries to move into place for a pit maneuver. He succeeds with a minor effect. So he gets all the way up to the car to pit and sees that Tabitha is unsecured in the back. And is like, oh my god, if I do this, I'm going to kill the hostage. Because she'll just be a missile inside of that vehicle. So he stays in position and tries to race ahead, but doesn't complete the maneuver. Tabitha moves into place with the knife and holds it to the throat of the driver and says, stop the car. So she tries to intimidate him into it. I'm going to say that that's a difficulty 3 task because of who he is, but she has a knife, which is an asset, and she'll spend. So she must roll a 3 or more. And what did she roll? She rolled a 9. So the wheelman, starts to decelerate the car. Not hard or anything. Well, so he's going to decelerate the car. Is he going to decelerate hard to try and dislodge her? He's intimidated. Would he try to throw her and still get away? I'm going to say that that's because he's intimidated. I'm going to say it's unlikely. Very unlikely. So 20. So it's not an extreme yes, but it's a yes. So he's going to try to throw her by hammering on the brakes really hard. Tabitha was anticipating that. Will Tabitha stab him? I mean, yeah. Yeah, she knows she's in a life or death situation. So she puts the utility knife into his neck. And she's not real skilled. So she's just stabbed the man in the side of the neck. And it's real likely that she hit the Carteroid. So he's probably not long for this world. Does the man whose neck was just stabbed lose control of the vehicle? Almost certainly. So let's say it's nearly certain. Well, if it's nearly certain, I can't get a... No, I can still get a no. I can roll double aughts. No. So the man that's stabbed loses control of the vehicle. He like takes his hands off of the wheel and grabs at his neck, and tries to fight with Tabitha. The wheelman, the non-wheelman, is gonna try to reach over and grab the wheel. It's a difficulty 4 task for him. And he fails. He rolls in that one. So in fact, he unbuckles so that he can get over there and lunges for the wheel and overcorrects. And the van loses control. Tabitha's holding on to the only person that's buckled in, an arm around the seat and her knife deep in his neck. And I'm going to say that it's a might task of difficulty 6 to hold on and not be thrown around the cab. And she's not going to spend on this because she really, really needs to be able to soak the damage. Because she's about to take some. Oh my god. I could burn EXP. Yeah, she could burn EXP. I want her to get hurt though. So it's a difficulty 6 task to hold on without being thrown. She rolls a 5. She does not. So I don't remember how damage works in Cypher. It's been a minute. So I know how damage works when you are hit with a weapon. So let's look at the image at the index. I bet there's just a damage in the index. On page 217, damage. Damage from hazards falling. 1 point per 10 feet. Minor fire, major fire, acid splash, crush, collision. 6 points of damage. So, Tabitha is going to take 6 points from her might and her speed pool, reducing her to 0 might and 1 speed. And this puts her in the impaired pool, some merciful how. Sure, and when you don't manage to... Yeah, so the car crashes, and the car like tumbles end over end over end. In fact, I'm gonna do one more. We're gonna actually go ahead and drop both of these current pools to 0, and we're gonna put Tabitha to debilitated, because that really is what makes sense. She was just in a horrible car crash. She was in a horrible car crash. So now there are questions of survival. The mook that was in the car didn't necessarily die on impact. The one who wasn't stabbed in the neck, he could have survived. He could have survived that, but I think it's a fate question as to whether or not the guy thrown from the back of the car and the guy thrown from the back of the car and the guy in the car, do they survive? So I'm going to say that it's very unlikely that either live. So let's ask, it's nearly impossible that both die. So let's say it that way. Do they both die? That's nearly impossible. 87. Not quite an extreme yes. An extreme no. No, they don't both die. One of them died. Heads, it was the guy that was dropped to the roadway. Tails, it's the one in the vehicle. Okay, so the guy that was thrown to the roadway went underneath the wheels of one of the pursuing police vehicles or a different car on the street. Didn't live. The guy in the van, the one that Tabitha didn't stab, he survived. So does he try to flee the scene? Is he stable enough to run? I'm going to say that that's nearly impossible, that he's stable enough to run after that car crash being unbuckled in it. 32. He is stable enough to run. So the cops pull up, and he makes an attempt to evade. And he needs a critical success. And he rolls a 20. He gets away. Oh my god, look at that. Whoop, boop, 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 boop. 20, there it is. So he got away. All right. So now, Tabitha. Not how I expected things to go. All right. So the cops come upon her, the two vehicles, and it's one from inside that knew that who they were going to go watch, and rolls up and into the car, and he finds broken glass and only Tabitha and the other person. The other guy's wearing, a mask and whatnot. Gloves. He was obviously there. And then there's Tabitha dressed in her professor duds, beaten and bloodied, laying over the arm of the chair with the dead man, just groaning like, oh. And he's got his gun out and he's like, stay where you are. He's like, yeah, sure thing. And they resolve that, and he comes up and he's like, oh my god, you're one of the people that was being watched in that hotel. Realizes it was the kidnapping and that she was the person to bring. They've already got an ambulance coming to the scene. They realize the other guy is dead. It moves up and it takes Tabitha to the ER. And so she's going to get at least one full night of rest in the ER. Which is going to give her a D6 plus her tier, which is 1 point of recovery, which is 2 points of recovery, which she will spend on 1 might and 1 speed. And I'm going to say that because she is in a hospital, the doctors get to roll on her behalf as well. Which is a little better, so she can get another 3 in each. I don't know what the actual rules are for It doesn't particularly matter because what's going to happen is she's going to be held in the ER um, until she she's going to be held in the ER. Let's not give her that. That doesn't make sense. She's going to be held in the ER for a while, or in the hospital for a little while because she was in a car crash. They're going to make sure there's no internal bleeding, all that nonsense. So there's going to be like a day or two of monitoring. But the real question is, did she break something in the crash? And I'm going to say that that's almost certain. It is. Did she manage to get away without breaking anything? Just contusions and whatnot. And I'm going to say that that is nearly impossible. And that means that she, in fact, does get away without breaking anything. So if I had asked that the other way, right? If I had said it's nearly certain she broke something, then yes. Not an extreme yes, but a yes. Is it more interesting for her to have a broken arm for a while and to be hindered on physical tasks for the rest of the adventure? I don't think so. I think what we're going to do is we're going to give her some bruised ribs, which ribs take forever to heal. And that's going to be hindered speed tasks. And what are we going to do? We're going to give that... We're going to give that a 4-element clock. So after 4 10-hour rests, we'll take away her bruised ribs, which is like Wolverine level healing factor. But hey, like, let's be real. It would be really, really boring for her to constantly be at a disadvantage for like the rest of the campaign, which would be more real, which would be like more in keeping with how that goes. So she's at the hospital, and they've taken they've taken more serious protective custody. So they called in more officers to watch over her in that position and deal with the fallout. So I think we're going to have to figure out who it is she threw from the car and who it is she killed with a knife. I believe we know that John isn't there. Not John, excuse me. I believe we know that Charles Irwin is not there on the scene anywhere. But we will be able to identify the man who escaped on foot. We got a good picture of him. And we might know who rented the vehicle and with what credit cards and whatnot. And Tabitha's going to have to deal with the legal fallout of having killed 2 men in self-defense. And recover, obviously, from just a very, very terrible event. They won't have Janus with her anytime soon. They'll probably watch them both separately. They might even hold Janus in prison for his protection until they can find a better solution. So, with that said, when we get back next time, we'll see what happens after Tabitha's a little bit recovered and out of the hospital.